Welcome in, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hope you guys are doing well and hope you had a good NFL weekend. So, today we're going to talk about NFL week 3. So, we're going to take a look at most of the games and talk about them, talk about some of the players that stood out, and just overall impressions that I have after week 3. So it was a pretty exciting weekend. So we had Josh Allen and the Bills play on Thursday. It was a good game to watch. We had Caleb Williams get a nice win for the Bears, and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs got their first win of the season. So it was a pretty interesting and exciting week in the NFL. So we got a lot of good stuff to go over. Before we do jump into that, I would like to mention that on my YouTube channel, I create content about money, sports, and personal topics with the goal of bringing value to other people's lives. So if you guys find value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. All right, let's go ahead and jump into NFL Week 3. All right, guys. So NFL Week 3 kicked off on Thursday. So we had a game between Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills, and looks like this was in Buffalo. So it was Tua of the Dolphins versus Josh Allen of the Bills. So in this one, we can see that the Bills got a win 31-21. They improved to 3-0 on the season, and the Dolphins are 0-3. So let's take a look at some of the numbers on this one. So for the Dolphins, Tua went 22 for 34, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tyreek Hill had 5 receptions for 49 yards with a touchdown. And for the Bills, Josh Allen went 22 for 28, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. James Cook, 19 carries, 108 yards with 1 touchdown. All right. So this was a good game to kick off the NFL weekend. Josh Allen and the Bills, they're just on a different level compared to the Miami Dolphins. Josh had another very good game, so he's definitely in the MVP conversation after week 3. The Bills look really good. I think as of now, they're probably the favorite to win the AFC and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I know it's early, but we still have a lot more games, but they're the most impressive team I've seen so far. And for the Dolphins, I'm not sure what's going to happen with them this season. So they're 0-3. Not sure if they're going to make a coaching change, a quarterback change, or some other changes, but bad start for the Dolphins, and it's not looking good for the rest of the season. The biggest upset this weekend was in the game between the Green Bay Packers and Cleveland Browns. So this was a matchup between Jordan Love of the Packers and the 40-year-old Joe Flacco of the Browns. So we can see that the Browns got a win 13-10. They're 1-2 on the season, and the Packers are 2-1. So this was definitely the biggest upset of the game. I don't think anybody saw the Browns beating the Packers, who are considered the best team in the NFL. But that's why they play the games, and that's why we watch, because anything can happen. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders and numbers in this one. So for the Packers, Jordan Love, 18 for 25, 183 yards, one touchdown, one interception. Their rookie wide receiver, Matthew Golden, had 4 receptions for 52 yards. And for the Browns, Joe Flacco, he went 21 for 36, 142 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. All right. So, yeah, this was definitely a big surprise, just because the Packers have been playing so well this season. Um, we all know about the Micah Parsons trade that they made. And yeah, I mean, the first 2 weeks they played very well, and a lot of people had them listed as the best team in the NFL. And the Browns are supposed to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. But every week in the NFL, upsets happen. So this game was the one this week. So, just some other thoughts that I have on this game. So this was, I mean, even though it was a low scoring game, it was definitely filled with drama. And at the end, the game was tied 10-10. And just in the last seconds, the Cleveland Browns went for a 55-yard field goal attempt, and they made it. And they squeezed out the win at the very end. So it was definitely exciting to watch the game at the end, even though it wasn't high scoring. And the Browns get their first win of the season. So just as far as the Packers, I know a lot of people have them rated as the best team in the NFL. And I mean, I think they're one of the better teams in the NFL. But just as far as their quarterback, Jordan Love, I know he's a pretty good quarterback and everything, but I don't think he's an elite quarterback like all the other guys, like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, etc. I think he's a little overhyped. I think he's just kind of like a middle of the road quarterback. He makes some good plays, but he also makes mistakes. So I think that if the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl, I think Jordan Love has to be very good. He has to be better than he is right now and has been playing. So I'm a little hesitant to say the Packers are the best team in the NFL, just because Jordan Love, I don't think he's quite on the level that maybe some other people think. But if he gets better and goes up to that next level, then I'll definitely see the Packers as the best team in the NFL. And with the Browns, we'll see what the rest of the season looks like. Hopefully, at some point, they put in their backup quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders, just to see what they look like. So I'm excited to see if that happens for the Browns. All right, the next game we're going to jump into is the game between the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this was a matchup between CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence, two young, pretty exciting quarterbacks. So in this one, the Jags pull out the win 17-10. They're 2-1 on the season, and the Texans are winless at 0-3. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. So for the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud went 25 for 38, 204 yards with touchdown and 2 interceptions. And their wide receiver, Nico Collins, had a pretty good game, 8 receptions, 104 yards with a touchdown. On the other side, Trevor Lawrence, he went 20 for 40, 222 yards, zero touchdowns, one interception. And Travis Etienne ran for 56 yards with a touchdown. All right. So this was a pretty interesting game to watch. Both of these teams are in the same division, AFC South, so it was an important game. And I like to watch Trevor Lawrence of the Jaguars. I just like his game for some reason. Um, he hasn't had the best career so far, as some people might have expected. So he's been in the league now for several years, and I think a lot of people thought that by now he would be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's not quite there yet, but I'm still a Trevor Lawrence fan. Um, I definitely think he's the long-term solution for the Jaguars, and he might not ever be the best quarterback in the league, but I think he's very, very good. And if I had him as a quarterback, I would definitely keep him. So Jags are looking pretty good, 2-1 on the season. Travis Hunter, their rookie wide receiver slash cornerback, had some nice plays, especially on the offensive side. He made some nice catches. So I think the Jags are going to be fine. They're going to keep getting better and better, and I'm going to be rooting for them and see what they do rest of the season. On the other side, the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud, very disappointing start to the season. They're 0-3. CJ Stroud, a couple of years ago, had one of the best, if not the best, rookie seasons ever. Um, and now he's he's not playing the best, so he's kind of regressed relative to that rookie season. Um, he's still a very good quarterback and everything, but it just doesn't quite look the same. And his team is just not as good as they were in his rookie season. So we'll see if this is just, short term problems that they're having. We'll see if the Houston Texans get back on track and CJ Stroud gets back on track. Um, but 0-3 so far. All right. So the next game on the plate is a really good game that happened over the weekend. So we had the Los Angeles Rams go against the Philadelphia Eagles. So this was a matchup between Matt Stafford and Jalen Hurts. And the Eagles get the win 33-26. The Eagles are undefeated at 3-0, and the Rams are 2-1. So two very good teams in the NFC here. One of the best, if not the best, games of the weekend for sure. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders and numbers. So for the Los Angeles Rams, Matt Stafford, he went 19 for 33, 196 yards, two touchdowns, one interception. Their wide receiver, Puka Nakua, had a good game with 11 receptions, 112 yards. And for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, he went 21 for 32, 226 yards, three touchdowns, zero interceptions. And their wide receiver, A.J. Brown, had a really good game with six receptions, 109 yards, and one touchdown. So this was one of the better games of the weekend. So very exciting quarterback and offense of the Los Angeles Rams versus the defending Super Bowl champs, Philadelphia Eagles. So the game definitely did not disappoint. So in this one, the Rams led most of the game, and they were the better team most of the game. Um, but the Eagles, they just kept fighting in this one, and in the third and fourth quarter, um, they scored 26 points total, and they were able to get the win in this one. So this was very, very good game to watch. Um, for the Eagles, one of the criticisms of them is that they don't have a very good passing game, and that Jalen Hurts, he doesn't pass the ball enough, and that their wide receiver AJ Brown, that he's not involved enough in the offense. But they kind of turned that narrative around in this game. Jalen Hurts, like we saw earlier, he had 3 passing touchdowns and also 1 rushing touchdown. Um, AJ Brown had one of his best games. He had over 100 yards receiving, so that was good to see. So honestly, I was very, very impressed by the Eagles in this one, um, just because they could have folded to the Rams. Um, they were 2-0 going into this game, so losing one game would not have been that big of a deal. But just the fact that they decided to kick into gear their passing game and have Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown have one of their best games together, I thought that was very impressive. It just kind of tells me that the Eagles, they can just win in so many different ways. Like one day they can win with their defense because they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. On another day, they can win with Saquon Barkley and their running game. But if the defense and the running game is not playing well, if they need to, they can also win with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown in their passing game. So I was very, very impressed with this game. Um, a lot of people had the Rams winning this game, but you should never go against like defending champs. And the Eagles, they're just so consistent. They're not the sexiest team out there. Sometimes, like I said, they don't pass the ball enough, so they look boring at times, but they get the job done no matter what, man. This is very, very impressive. So before this week, a lot of people had the Packers listed as the best team in the NFC, and then the Eagles were second. But just after this week, with the Packers playing so bad and losing to the Browns, and the Eagles playing so well and beating one of the best teams in the NFC, to me, like, it's quite clear that the Philadelphia Eagles are still the best team in the NFC. And I don't think that's going to change going forward. I think they're clearly the best team. And as long as they stay healthy, I think they're going to remain the best team in the NFC, still better than the Packers. And the Rams, even though they lost, they still had a pretty good game. Um, they just kind of slowed down in the fourth quarter and couldn't match up with the Eagles at the end. But the Rams are still going to be good, and they're still going to be in the mix at the very end. All right. So next, we're going to talk about my hometown team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they played against the New York Jets, and this was in Tampa. So it was Baker Mayfield versus Tyrod Taylor, who is in for the injured Justin Fields. So this was a pretty exciting game to watch. Um, it went all the way down to the end, but the Bucks got the win 29-27. They're undefeated at 3-0, and the Jets are 0-3. So these two teams are going in two very different directions after 3 games. Let's take a look at some of the game leaders and numbers in this one. For the New York Jets, Tyrod Taylor, he went 26 for 36, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Their wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, had a pretty good game with 10 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, he went 19 for 29, 233 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Their rookie wide receiver, Ibuka, had 6 receptions for 85 yards. All right. So this game was pretty interesting. So at the very end, the Jets were winning 27-26 over the Bucks, and just being a Buccaneers fan, I was definitely disappointed that it looked like we were going to lose to the Jets, who are not very good this season. But at the very end, the Bucks get the ball down the field, and they attempt a 36-yard field goal, and they make it, and they get out of there with a win. So a little too close for comfort at the very end, even though the Bucks played pretty well during the whole game. The Jets made it close at the very end and took the lead, but I think the better team won, and we will take the win how we can get it. So, just some other thoughts I have on this game and these teams. I mean, the New York Jets, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL this season, so there's really nothing else to say about them. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, every week I watch them and specifically Baker Mayfield. I'm always like positively surprised by Baker and how he plays. He just, for his size, being like a smaller quarterback, he just plays a lot better than I expect. So whenever he's about to get sacked, I feel like he's always like scrambling, and he always finds a way to get out of there, out of the pressure, and he either makes a play with his legs running, or he keeps his eyes downfield and throws the ball. And he's just very feisty and competitive, and he's like one of the quarterbacks I enjoy watching the most, just because what he does at his size, I don't expect from him and players of his size, but he's just very good, man. I don't know what else to say. He just plays with an edge, and he performs. He gets the job done. So very happy with Baker Mayfield and the Bucks, and they're off to another very good season. I just want to spend a little time talking about this game between the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. So this was a matchup between Daniel Jones of the Colts and the number 1 overall draft pick this season, Cam Ward of the Titans. So these two teams are not the most exciting teams in the NFL, but just want to cover a couple of things on this one. So for the Colts, so game leaders, Daniel Jones, he went 18 for 25, 228 yards with a touchdown. Their running back, Jonathan Taylor, had 17 carries for 102 yards with three touchdowns. And Michael Pittman had 73 yards receiving with a touchdown. And for the Tennessee Titans, their rookie quarterback, Cam Ward, he went 23 for 38, 219 yards, one touchdown, one interception. So the reason I want to talk about this game is just talk about the Colts a little bit. So the Colts somehow are undefeated this season at 3-0, and they're definitely the biggest positive surprise this season. I think a lot of people thought that they would be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and I don't think anybody saw them being 3-0. So Daniel Jones, he's been kind of very so-so in his NFL career so far, but he's looked very good in these three games with the Colts. I'm not sure if he's their long-term solution, but he's definitely playing very well, and the Colts are the biggest surprise in the NFL this season. And for the Titans, 0-3, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. Cam Ward, rookie quarterback, is playing how you would expect a rookie quarterback to play. He's making some good plays, but also making some bad decisions. So we'll see what he looks like towards the end of the season, but I don't expect much from the Titans. But we'll see what the Colts do the remainder of the season. Not sure if this is just, you know, a short term winning streak that they're on, or if they're going to be very good for the remainder of the season. So that'll definitely be interesting to keep an eye on. All right. So in the next game, we had a matchup between the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers. So this was a matchup between Bo Nix and Justin Herbert. And in a game that went down to the last seconds, the Chargers get a win 23-20. They're 3-0 on the season, and the Broncos fall to 1-2. Let's take a look at some of the game leaders in this one and the numbers. For the Broncos, Bo Nix went 14 for 25, 153 yards with a touchdown. Dobbins had 83 yards rushing with a touchdown, and Cortland Sutton had 118 yards receiving with a touchdown. For the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, 28 for 47, 300 yards, one touchdown, one interception. All right. So another very good game by Justin Herbert. So in this game, as you can see, it was very close. And the Chargers at the very end, they drive the ball down the field and they kick a 43-yard field goal and they make it, and they squeeze out the win over the Broncos. So very good game to watch, very exciting, and it definitely did not disappoint. So I just want to talk about the Chargers a little bit. Um, Very good start so far, 3-0 on the season. In their first game, they got a big win over the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert, he just looks amazing. He's throwing the ball down the field. He's using his legs when he needs to. So he's just having a very good season. Definitely a candidate for MVP. And I think the Chargers are going to make some serious noise in in the AFC this season. And for the Broncos, I mean, they played pretty well in this one, even though they lost. Bo Nix, their quarterback, is pretty good. He's not on the level of Justin Herbert, but he's still good. And the Denver Broncos will be fine. They'll be in the mix in the AFC towards the end of the season. So both of these two teams are very good. All right. So the game that I was most excited about watching is my favorite team this season, the team I'm rooting for, and my favorite quarterback, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. So they faced off with the New England Patriots and their quarterback, Drake May. So a very old quarterback in the Steelers versus very young quarterback in the Patriots. So this was a pretty good game to watch if you're a Steelers fan. So let's check out the numbers first and game leaders. So Aaron Rodgers, he went 16 for 23, 139 yards, two touchdowns, one interception. Their running back, Jalen Warren, he had 18 carries for 47 yards, and he also had five receptions for 34 yards. And for the Patriots, Drake May, he went 28 for 37, 268 yards, two touchdowns, one interception. And their tight end, Hunter Henry, had a pretty good game, eight receptions, 90 yards, with two touchdowns. All right. So, again, this was a pretty good game to watch if you like these teams, even though they're not the two most popular teams or popular quarterbacks. But nonetheless, so the Steelers, um, they got off to a nice start. They started 7-0 over the Patriots. But after that, I mean, the Patriots played pretty well. So it was a pretty competitive game, the whole game. Um, for the New England Patriots, they turned the ball over five times. So it was just really like fumbles all over the place. And the Steelers were able to capitalize on that and recover those fumbles. So anytime you have five turnovers, the probability of winning the game is very, very minimal. So that's really what determined the game in this one. Um, so I want to talk about the Steelers. So even though their defense, created or forced those five turnovers, I think the defense is still not at the level that it should be. They have a lot of big names on the defensive end, like TJ Watt, Jalen Ramsey, and Cam Hayward, and others. But for whatever reason, they're just not dominating on that end as I thought that they would. Um, they are, I think, the oldest team in the NFL. So, not sure if that's the main reason, but hopefully, as the season goes along, the defense will get better. Those guys will gel, and they'll get back to Steelers football on the defensive end. Um, on the offensive end for the Steelers, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he just kind of had a solid game, nothing too amazing, nothing too bad either. A couple of touchdowns, one interception. Um, he had a couple nice throws that were back shoulder, so he's still slinging the ball like usual, even though he can't move around very well. And in this game, Aaron Rodgers made history. So he passed Brett Favre for fourth on the all time touchdown passing list. So that's a huge accomplishment for his career. So he passes his former teammate, Brett Favre. So I think that was pretty cool to watch. And we'll see what happens with the Steelers going forward. I mean, in their division, they have the Ravens. So the Ravens are going to win that division. But since Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals is going to be out for most of the season, and the Bengals are in their division, I think the second best team in the division is the Steelers. So hopefully they just keep playing well enough where they make the playoffs. The other team is the Browns in their division. I don't think they're going anywhere this season. So my hope is that as the season goes on, that the Steelers defense gets a lot better. Um, I think the offense will get better as well, just as they build more chemistry and Aaron Rodgers gets more and more comfortable. And with the fact that the Bengals lost their starting quarterback, gives the Steelers even a higher chance of making the playoffs. So just all those things combined together, I'm hoping that the Steelers improve going forward, and that towards the end of the season, I'm hoping that they make the playoffs, and we'll we'll see what happens there. And the Patriots, I mean, they're just kind of an okay team. Their quarterback is just average, Drake May. Um, so the Patriots, they're just going to be like a 500 team this season. So not much more expected there from the Patriots. Another game that I was very excited about watching was the game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Chicago Bears. So this was a matchup between Dak Prescott and Caleb Williams. So in this one, the Bears pretty much dominated the whole game and they got a big win of 31-14. The Bears improved to 1-2 on the season and the Cowboys fall to 1-2. So let's take a look at the game leaders in this one. So for the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, he went 31 for 40, 251 yards, one touchdown, and two interceptions. Their running back, Williams, had 10 carries for 76 yards. And their tight end, Ferguson, had 13 receptions for 82 yards. So for the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, he went 19 for 28, 298 yards, four touchdowns, zero interceptions. And their wide receiver, Burden, had three receptions for 101 yards and one touchdown. So just overall, not a very good offensive game by the Dallas Cowboys, but for the Chicago Bears, they have their best game of the season, and they get a big win. So just with the Cowboys in this one, so their star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb got injured, and ever since he went out of the game, the Cowboys just could not generate any effective offense. Um, their running game wasn't very good either, so not sure what happened with the Cowboys there. Um, I don't know if they're so dependent on CeeDee Lamb that he goes out and their offense just crashes, or if it's something else, but not a very good game by Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott. And they fall to 1-2 on the season. So I definitely wanted to watch this game because of the Chicago Bears. So Chicago was 0-2 before this game. A lot of chatter about Caleb Williams. Is he good? Is he not good? Is he going to be a superstar or is he a bust? So just a lot of talk 2 games into Caleb's second year. And he's played, poorly those first 2 games. So it's the criticism was definitely understandable. But he had some flashes with his legs and with his arm that show you why he was the number 1 overall pick. So in this game, um, he played amazing. It was definitely the best game of year 2 for him, um, probably of his young career as well. So he threw for almost 300 yards. He completed 68% of his passes, and he had 4 passing touchdowns. So he looked very good, um, like you would expect a number 1 overall pick to look. There are still some mistakes here and there. He missed a few throws and was inaccurate, but just overall, very, very impressive game for Caleb Williams and the Bears after the first 2 weeks. And their head coach, Ben Johnson, gets his first win of his head coaching career. So that was good to see. So I think these 2 teams are honestly very similar. I just think that they're kind of average teams. They're not one of the good teams or better teams. They're not the worst teams in the NFL. So it's just kind of hard to predict where these 2 teams will end up at the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them make the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them miss the playoffs. So it's just kind of hard to predict. So I'll definitely be watching the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams each week. I want to see if he builds on this game, if he keeps growing and growing going forward. Um, the Chicago Bears, like historically, they're not known for very exciting offense. But now, since they have Ben Johnson as their head coach, he's got all kinds of plays in his book and he's very creative. So it's just very exciting to watch the Chicago Bears offense with Caleb Williams and to see how they progress the rest of the season. And I think the Bears have a good chance of making the playoffs, but we shall see. So we had a pretty amazing game on Sunday Night Football. It was a matchup between 2 teams that were winless heading into this game. So it was the Kansas City Chiefs versus the New York Giants. It was a matchup between Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. So, very good game to watch on Sunday Night Football. And we were going to see which of these 2 teams was going to get their first win of the season. So we can see that the Chiefs got the win 22-9, and they get their first win of the season. They're 1-2 on the year, and the Giants are still winless at 0-3. So let's see the game leaders and numbers in this one. So for the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, he had a pretty good game. He went 22 for 37, 224 yards with a touchdown, zero interceptions. Quarterback rating 85.9. Their running back, Pacheco, had 10 carries for 45 yards. Their wide receiver, Thornton, had 5 receptions for 71 yards with a touchdown. And for the New York Giants, Russell Wilson, he went 18 for 32, 160 yards, zero touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he had a low quarterback rating of 43.8. Their running back, Scatterbo, had a pretty good game. He ran for 60 yards and a touchdown, and he also had 61 yards receiving. So in this one, Patrick Mahomes had a pretty good game, but not one of his best games, and Russell Wilson struggled with the 2 interceptions. All right, so this was definitely a exciting game to watch, must watch game, Sunday night football. So the Kansas City Chiefs, we all know they were in the Super Bowl last year and lost to the Eagles. And heading into this season, we just kind of wanted to see what they would look like. And in the first 2 games, they've been honestly disappointing. Um, they lost both of their games. They did play against good teams, but nonetheless, the Chiefs' offense just didn't look very good in those first 2 games. Um, they do have 2 wide receivers that are out, Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. So that definitely, is a part of it. But Mahomes also just hasn't looked his best in those first 2 weeks. So it was definitely exciting to watch this one to see if the offense would look bad like they have been, or if they would actually turn it around and look better in this one. So they did get the win 22-9, but it still wasn't a very like pretty win or a very impressive win by the Chiefs. Mahomes was still missing throws, and their offense still looked out of sync, but it was, a better performance compared to the first 2 weeks, and they got a win. They don't want to go 0-3 just because being 0-3, like statistically, the probability of them making the playoffs decreases a lot. So this was definitely a big win to avoid that, but it was against one of the worst teams in the NFL and the Giants. So not sure really how to judge this game. There's that positives in it, but there's also negatives. So I think the Chiefs still have a lot to prove. Um, but I think overall they're going to be fine when their 2 wide receivers that I just mentioned, when they come back. That's definitely going to boost their offense. Um, but their running game is still a problem. So not sure if they're going to make a trade there to get a better running back. So the Chiefs are definitely a work in progress, but it's a long season, and I'm not gonna count out the Chiefs at all. And I think they're still gonna be very good at the end of the day. For the New York Giants, I mean, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. Russell Wilson, um, he's not playing the best. He had a good yardage game versus the Cowboys last week. So that was kind of like a positive sign and gave some hope to the Giants fans. But after this week, he had a very bad game. two interceptions, zero touchdowns. So he's definitely not the long term solution or even intermediate solution for the Giants at quarterback position. So I think in the coming weeks, we can expect the Giants to put in Jackson Dart, their rookie quarterback, who played really well during the preseason, to put him in as the starting quarterback and roll with him the rest of the season and just have him be their future. So we'll see if that makes any difference for the Giants, but I don't think, as far as their winning numbers, I still think they're going to have a very bad season and be one of the worst teams this year in the NFL. All right, guys. The last game we're going to talk about is the game that's going to be played tonight on Monday Night Football. So it's going to be a pretty exciting game. Two very good teams going head to head. So we're going to have the Detroit Lions go against the Baltimore Ravens. So it's going to be Jared Goff of the Lions versus Lamar Jackson of the Ravens. So these are two of the best teams in the NFL. The Lions, they're 1-1 on the season. Um, Heading into the season, there was questions about the Lions because both of their coordinators on offense and defense um, got new jobs on other teams as head coaches. So people were just wondering if the Detroit Lions offense is going to be as good as last year. So they struggled in their first game, but they got a nice win in the second game. And now in the third game, they get a big test versus the Ravens. So we'll see what the Detroit Lions look like. Um, they have a lot of weapons. Jared Goff, very good quarterback. Jameer Gibbs, very good running back. Amon-Ra St. Brown, very good wide receiver for them. So they definitely have weapons, just like they had last year. So I'm sure they'll be fine. For the Ravens, they're also 1-1 on the season. They lost their first game, which was against the Bills. And for whatever reason, it just seems like they cannot beat Josh Allen and the Bills. But they bounced back in their second game. And now they're in their third game of the season versus a very good Detroit Lions team. So one of the best teams in the NFC versus one of the best teams in the AFC. So very good game for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, very dangerous quarterback. Derrick Henry, just a monster and hard to tackle. Also, Zay Flowers, their wide receiver. So both of these teams are filled with talent and superstars, and we shall see who's going to win tonight. Um, just my prediction for this game and who I think is going to win. I think I'll go with the Baltimore Ravens. So they are playing in Baltimore, which is, helpful for the Ravens. But I just think that the Ravens are a better team than the Lions. I think the Ravens running attack with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is just too much. Um, and for the Lions, we'll see if they can protect Jared Goff versus the Ravens defense. But just in general, I just think the Ravens are a better team. They're playing in Baltimore in this one. So my expectation is that the Ravens will win, but I will be rooting for the Lions and Jared Goff to win in this one. And after this game, that would wrap up week 3 in the NFL. All right, guys. Before we officially wrap it up for today, I just want to take a look at the standings in each conference and each division to see where each of the teams stand. So we have played 3 games in the NFL season so far. So we're kind of starting to get a picture of which teams are going to be very good this season, which teams are going to be very bad. So we have just enough of a sample size now with 3 weeks where we can kind of make the distinction between where teams are headed remainder of the season. So let's see the standings in the NFL. So let's start with the AFC East. All right, so we got Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. They're undefeated at 3-0. So the Bills should definitely win their division. I don't see any of these other teams like threatening them as far as that. The Patriots, they're just an okay team. The Jets are not very good. The Dolphins are not very good. So should be smooth sailing for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. Let's take a look at the AFC North. So this division is the one I'm going to be watching most closely just because the team that I'm rooting for is in it, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So in this one, the Bengals and Steelers are both 2-1. The Ravens are 1-1 with their play tonight, like we mentioned, and the Browns are 1-2. So in this one, I think the Ravens are going to win this division just because they're the best team. I think number 2 is going to be Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're going to be good enough this year. The Cincinnati Bengals, they lost Joe Burrow for a lot of the season. If he was not out, I would have them as second, but since he is, I'm going to have them third. And the Cleveland Browns, I don't think they're going to be very good this year, even though they got a good win over the Packers. So should be Ravens easily in the AFC North with Pittsburgh Steelers in second. So AFC South, Indianapolis Colts undefeated on the season. The Jacksonville Jaguars are playing good enough. They're 2-1. Texans are 0-3, as well as Titans. So we'll see what happens in this one. I know the Colts look good so far, but not sure if they can sustain this during the whole season. So I can definitely see the Jags catching fire and taking the top spot in the AFC South, but maybe the Colts are legit and really are this good this season. So I think, I think either of those teams, either the Colts or Jags, are going to be 1-2, but the other 2 teams should be very bad this year. AFC West, Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert are 3-0. They should stay that way and be the best team in their division. Las Vegas Raiders, Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to get a lot better. I expect the Chiefs to be right there with the Chargers, but at this point, I'll have them in second place after the Chargers. And we'll see what happens with the Raiders and Broncos, but I think the 2 best teams in this division are the Chargers and Chiefs. All right, let's go to the other conference, NFC East. So Philadelphia Eagles are 3-0. They should win this division at the very end. Commanders should be second with Jaden Daniels, and the other 2 teams, Cowboys and Giants, I don't expect much from them this season. NFC North, Packers 2-1. I think they're the best team in the division. Detroit Lions close second after them. And then it's kind of a toss up. Minnesota Vikings and Chicago Bears, I think, are 3-4 in the division when it's all said and done. So Packers should have this one, but the Detroit Lions are definitely going to challenge them in that division. NFC South, Tampa Bay Buccaneers undefeated at 3-0. This is a bad division. Panthers, Falcons, and Saints are very bad. So the Bucs should easily have this division. And in the NFC West, we got more competition there, but the 49ers are 3-0 right now. Rams are 2-1, along with Cardinals and Seahawks. This one's tough. A lot of good teams in this one, but I think it's either going to be the 49ers or Rams up at the top spot when it's all said and done. And I think the Cardinals and Seahawks are going to remain in third and fourth place at the very end. All right. So that's the standings so far and just my predictions for each division, what I think is going to happen going forward. So that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in NFL Week 3. We saw some good games. We talked about them, talked about the players that stood out, and just overall impressions that I had. If you guys found value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos after each week of NFL action. And I'll see you guys next time around. Take care.